Alright, moving right along to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from Lamanta Benson, who asked me to do a Patreon request of, more like, this is a subject, and it's actually a subject I've always wanted to talk about, but I never really had the time or the perfect opportunity to do this. But as always, if you guys like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, or you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, hope you all enjoy this, and let's get started with the video. So this video, this subject is making lame villains awesome. Now, the thing of it is that there are tons of villains out there, and a lot of them are forgotten. There are hundreds upon hundreds of villains who are practically forgotten, for lack of a better word. They are forgotten for a multitude of reasons. In one way or another, they are forgotten. Or other times, they come back and they're scary as hell, or they're awesome as all hell. Remember, there was a time where the Flash's rogues were considered laughable and were useless, and even at one point all killed off in a god-awful event involving Neron the Devil in the Marvel universe. I mean, DC universe, excuse me. Almost said Marvel. But yeah. But now we know them as like some of the best villains out there in the DC universe. But that's the thing, is that there are always villains that sometimes are so laughably bad that they suddenly but then someone comes along and makes them scary. Perfect example of recently, and this was actually Lamanta's reasoning for sending me this Patreon request, was actually because of the treatment of the Spot in Across the Spider-Verse. Now, admittedly, when the Spot was announced as the villain for Across the Spider-Verse and subsequently its sequel, the big thing that I was like, really? The Spot, of all the villains, the Spot is going to be the big villain of this story arc. Like, that's your big villain, the Spot, a D-list Spider-Man villain, is suddenly going to be the big villain of the two movies. Like, he's just going to be the big center point of this storyline. But then we watch the movie, and you see this bumbling idiot become probably the most horrifying thing you have ever seen. Like, I'm talking like, it almost reminded me of like something out of Akira, with how scary he became. Like, it almost became like a Junji Ito story with how scary and how well utilized that story is. But the thing of it is that that wasn't the first time the Spot was treated with actual intent. If you guys remember, there was another time where the Spot was actually considered a serious threat and someone who's downright scary. And that was a time in Mark Waid's Daredevil where he went by the name Coyote and was horrifying. It was completely horrifying. Mark Waid made the Spot into a horrifying character where he would literally use his spots to remove people's heads, keep them alive, and just put them their disembodied heads in a closet where they'd all be screaming. And I'm like, fucking Christ, Mark. Fucking Christ, Waid. Like, what? Okay, turn it down. But that's the thing, is that any villain can become awesome or scary. Like, that's the whole point of this video, is to really talk about, like, how you could make villains and what villains could make it. But that's the thing, is that any writer can take a villain and make him scary. Perfect example, another good example, is a forgotten villain, Zodiac, all the way back from the Dark Reign era of Marvel, and now he's one of the big villains in the Moon Knight, Jed MacKay's Moon Knight book. But now we have another villain who's kind of D-list, Black Spectre, who is becoming the big endgame boss for Jed MacKay's Moon Knight run. But that's the thing, is that Zodiac for the big part of the run was reinvented for that, along with a lot of other lesser known characters. Hell, Caecilius was a D-list villain, and then he killed Doctor Strange, again, in another Jed MacKay storyline. But that's the thing, is that the point is that you don't need like some big event to make a villain, like a D-list villain, like awesome or scary. You just need a good writer and a good story. Now, as for making villains awesome, like one villain that I think did have an awesome time, like was Nick Spencer's Superior Spider-Man run, where he basically made the Secret Six, but for the Marvel Universe. And I would really love to collect the whole vault. I really want to find all of Nick Spencer's Superior Foes of Spider-Man. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, Superior Foes of Spider-Man was Nick Spencer's first time with Spider-Man characters and involved the Shocker leading a lot of D-list Spider-Man villains as like a mock Sinister Six, but they all really just don't work, like they're all just idiots. So yeah, and the Shocker's one character I've always enjoyed. While he's not one of my top 10 favorite Spider-Man villains, he's always a villain I enjoy seeing. The Shocker is like, if I could write Marvel Comics, I would love to do the Shocker as like the Captain Cold of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, where he's just a normal guy. He knows how to make vibro gauntlets, and he's also like a professional criminal, but he's kind of an idiot too. That's the thing, is that I would actually like to see a story where the Shocker, like, he knows how to make those gauntlets, and he knows how to like utilize his costume and how to keep it from literally vibrating his body into mush. So I would love to have a story where he's still kind of a bumbling dork, but he's one of the few Spider-Man villains out there who has like a code of conduct. And it's also noted that the Shocker is actually friends with several of Spider-Man's villains, particularly the Rhino, because of their time together in the Sinister Syndicate. So I would love to do a story, like, I would love to see a story with like the Shocker just kind of like on a job, and then it's kind of like it's just a day in the life of Herman Schultz, where he's just kind of like, I'm just a normal guy, I'm just an average man. Hey hell, I pay the price. But he's always getting his ass beat by Spider-Man or some villain of the day. But it comes down to it that he's actually like a criminal mastermind, or he's just an average guy, and he's living an average life. And he has friends outside of the mask. Like, really, like, play with the, like, really, I would really love to do, like, he has a code, like, come to a moment where he's like, I don't kill kids or elderly. I don't do that. Like, he's got his vibro gauntlet. He's pulling a job with, like, the Vulture or someone. And Vulture's like, go, freaking kill them, dude. And he's like, I don't kill kids. Like, that's my rule. Like, I make it, like, Shocker would be like, I don't kill kids or kill civilians unless they attack me. Like, I'm not like, and that would be a moment, like, I'd love to have that moment where Herman just, like, tells Toomes or, like, Ock or Craven that is like, I know a lot of you guys are, like, the big six or whatever, and you guys have your own private clubs or whatever, and you know what? I'm fine with just robbing banks and doing what I want, because if doing that to people and doing what you guys have done to people is what it takes to be in the big leagues, then I'm fine with being in the minors. And that's what I'd like to do, is just kind of finally explain, like, why the Shocker's one of Spider-Man's, like, one of his known foes, but why hasn't he gotten, like, higher? He's kind of, like, treated as the and, like, really explain, like, do a story where it really explains, like, why the Shocker is basically, for lack of a better word, the box ghost of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. But yeah, that's the thing. Even, like, you could do that. Like, there was actually a fanfiction series, shifting gears, that I did with a friend of mine when we were doing a DC fanfiction universe, where basically it was called The Forgotten Foes of Batman, where it focused on D-list Batman villains who were led by Killer Moth, and it involved, like, the Clue Master and Condiment King, Roxy Rocket, and I think the Werewolf as well. But yeah, it was just a story like, yeah, let's have some fun with the lesser villains kind of like trying to break out, and how the rest of Gotham reacts to that, with Killer Moth leading them. Anyway, so yeah, like, bottom of this is that, like, to end all this is that it's not so much like, it doesn't take, like, a story, like, it just needs the right writer. The character just needs the right writer and the right story for it, and that's really it. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what lame character, quote-unquote lame, there are no lame characters. There's just unused characters with unused potential. That's what I really want you to take away from this. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what quote-unquote lame Marvel and DC villains would you like to see get an upgrade like the Spot or a few others out there? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, I'd like to thank Lamonta Benson for this Patreon request and continued patronage. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.